We take a look back at Monday Night Football at Allegiant Stadium, not necessarily the play on the field, but the action in the coaching booth. That plus more on Wednesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for September 17th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate both. The show continues to grow each and every day because of your consistent support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. We shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you, 707-654-4693. We'll try to get in as much feedback as possible. Calls, texts, got a ton of them based off the results of the game on Monday and a bunch of different subjects having to do with the Raiders. So we'll try to get all your good feedback in coming up in segment number 3. Segment number 2, we'll talk about what the Raiders need to do on the field this week as they're back at the practice facility, getting prepared for the Washington Commanders. They may face Jayden Daniels. They may face Marcus Mariota, but it doesn't really matter about them. It's about the Raiders. What do they need to do? We'll talk about that coming up in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day, and it really has to do not with the action on the field for the Raiders, but off the field, and in particular, in the coaching booth. We'll jump right into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Mazda. Like all players, they sweat every detail, right? Because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is the only beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. So let's go ahead and jump into it. The biggest news and notes that came out of the Monday game with the Raiders at the Allegiant Stadium without being on the field happens to do with the coaching booth and happens to do with minority owner Tom Brady. Now, at some point in the game, ESPN's cameras caught Tom Brady. He was in the coach's booth. He was there on the second deck. He had a headset on. He didn't have his the microphone down to his face, but he did have the ears on and the headphones on, listening to what was going on in the play calls from Chip Kelly down to the sideline. Now, with that being said, there was also a report from ESPN that Chip Kelly said and confirmed that Tom Brady meets with him 2 or 3 times a week. They go over game plans, they go over film and try to set things up, which Pete Carroll, after the game on Monday, said that was inaccurate. On Tuesday, when he was asked about it by Vinny Bonsignore, he said, no, that's not something that happens. And as a matter of fact, Tom Brady is actually a guy that is following every rule that the NFL has put in place for him as a broadcaster and a minority owner, knowing that there could be a reason for that being like a cause of, a conflict of interest. But in fact, that's not the case. But the cameras caught him, right? And again, I say caught him very loosely because if he was trying to hide, he could have, right? He could have been anywhere in Allegiant Stadium. He could have been on the low trying to communicate if he was trying to be sneaky. Obviously, he wasn't doing that. The coach's booth is nothing but windows, right? And he was right there. And trust and believe, while the cameras are scanning the stadium, Tom Brady is easy to see. Now, he's easy to see unless you're me. And what I mean by that is I was at the Torch before the game, got to meet and greet with a lot of Raider Nation. And if that was you, I shout out to you, man. It was great to meet you, shake your hand, and chop it up, talk a little Raider football. And obviously sorry for the outcome. But after I left the Torch, I went to the elevator that I always go to. It's pretty quick move to the press box. And so this guy that runs the elevator, Perry, I always talk to him when I get in. So as soon as I opened up the elevator, he saw me. What's up, kid? What's happening? So I'm talking to Perry. We're basically side by side, and I'm looking at him. Right. And so I'm not looking in front of me. I'm looking to the side of me. Like I'm looking like this. If you're checking me out on YouTube, you can see I'm looking that way. I'm basically looking out of Studio Q right now. That's what I was doing. I was looking at the doors of the elevator because that's where Perry sits, and he presses the buttons on whatever floor you're going to go to. The press box is on the 4th floor, and the Torch is at, 150? So there you go. So we have to go up a couple levels to get to the press box. So after me and him are done hee-hawing back and forth, talking, laughing, joking, oh, I see you on TV. I see you doing this. All right, cool. Everything's great. We get quiet for a second, and I look right in front of me like I'm looking at the camera right now. Yeah, there's some guy in a big, tall guy in a black suit. That would be one Tom Brady. So it was so funny. I started laughing because I realized he was standing there, and there was only a couple of us. Normally, this elevator is pretty packed. There literally was 4 people. Tom Brady, his guy, me, and Perry. and that's it. So I look up, hey, how you doing? He's like, hey, man, how you doing? I was like, I'm good. And I couldn't think of what else to say. So I was like, hey, man, congratulations on the flag football that you're going to be a part of, as he announced that at Allegiant Stadium around 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday afternoon. And he said, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to it. Cool. Max Crosby's going to be a part of it as well. And then all of a sudden he made a beeline off the elevator. So, it wasn't my finest moment with Tom Brady in the elevator. Thought I could have got a couple good words in, maybe said this, that, and the other, introduced myself. I don't know. That would have been a smart idea. No, didn't do it. So trust and believe. There's plenty of places Tom Brady could have been in Allegiant Stadium where he would have been out of camera's view. He chose to be in camera's view. So that, to me, makes it feel like he wasn't trying to do anything sneaky, wasn't trying to bring information to Chip Kelly and be able to put together a really good game plan, as, he's part of some production meetings as part of Fox in his 10-year, $350 million deal. So on Tuesday, the NFL said Tom Brady did not violate any NFL rules by wearing a headset in the Raiders coaching booth during Monday night's game. They said in a statement that a minority owner with the Raiders and a broadcaster for Fox, he is prohibited from going to a team facility for practices or production meetings, but the former star quarterback is allowed to sit in the coach's booth, and that's according to the league. They said there are no policies that prohibit an owner from sitting in the coach's booth or wearing a headset during a game. That was Brian McCarthy. He said that in a statement. Brady was sitting in the booth in his capacity as a limited partner. But then they said all personnel sitting in the booth must abide by policies that prohibit the use of electronic devices other than league-issued equipment, such as Microsoft Surface tablets, for the sideline viewing system. So that was the statement that was rolled out by the NFL on Tuesday. Obviously, a lot of people made a big to-do about this because Tom Brady is the broadcaster. He does get information from teams somehow, some way. He communicates with them by Zoom or Teams or whatever the case may be. He's not allowed to be in the facility. A lot of people think that it's foul that he's able to do that. This is what Adam Schefter, as a part of Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio on Tuesday morning, had to say about the whole to-do, Tom Brady being in the booth.
I don't buy into it as much as other people do. I think, forgive me for being trusting and understanding, but I think Tom Brady understands what's professional and moral, and I don't think he's sneaking into the Chiefs facility as a broadcaster, stealing secrets and then dispensing them to the Raiders. The information that he gets, we all can watch the film and see tendencies of players. He's studying a lot of film of a lot of guys. And I just think one of these things is a little bit overstated. I understand why people raise it. I just think people are being a little oversensitive about it in my mind.
So Shefty didn't think it was a big deal, and it's really being overblown, most likely because it's Tom Brady and it's the Raiders. Those two combinations right there obviously don't go hand in hand, but look, Tom Brady's got 350 million reasons why he doesn't want to mess up this situation with Fox. He also is part minority owner of the Raiders. Another reason not to mess this up, right? I'm sure if he were to get caught doing something sneaky, then, well, why wouldn't they take his minority ownership away? Right? I'm sure the owners would get together and say, yeah, we can't have that, and he'd probably have to sell his shares. But Chris Canty, also part of Unsportsmanlike, it's Evan Cohen, Chris Canty, and Michelle Smallman. They do a fantastic job, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, had this to say about Tom Brady being in the booth.
These cheaters around here, we've got to – no, man. That's not the business. That's not the industry. Everybody is looking for a competitive edge, and a lot of these teams go right up to the line, and a lot of these teams cross the line. So I don't have an issue with Tom Brady using every advantage at his disposal to help move his franchise forward. I have zero problem with it.
Agreed.
At all. I'm just acknowledging that I think that it does provide a competitive advantage because you have somebody that has a lot of football acumen asking pointed questions to head coaches and star players, and he can glean information from that to help his team.
So not necessarily exactly on the same lines of Adam Schefter. Hey, man, he's a minority owner. He has the opportunity to do that. No problem with that. Look, the Colts owner, she's on the sideline. She's got a headset. She's got her notebook. She's taking all kind of notes. Nick Caserio, he's the GM of the Houston Texans. He's in the booth with a headset on communicating. The only difference between those two and Tom Brady, Brady's a broadcaster. Brady could talk to the Chiefs. Brady could talk to the Chargers. Brady could talk to the Broncos. Brady could talk to you fill in whatever team you want to fill in. He can do that as long as he's part of the Fox broadcast. And so they think that that information is going to come back to the silver and black. And I'm sure that this story is not going to go away anytime soon, only because this upcoming week, he's going to be on the broadcast for the Bears game. And who do the Raiders play after the Commanders at Allegiant Stadium? Yeah, you got it, the Bears. So how much information are they going to give him, if any? Are they going to want to do that, knowing that he could possibly go back and talk to Chip Kelly and try to put a game plan, I do that in air quotes, together for their game. Maybe they don't want to do that. They feel like, oh, yeah, this is definitely a conflict of interest. That's a subject that I don't think is going to go away anytime soon. What we will talk about, though, and turn our attention to is what the Raiders need to do this week at practice. They're back on the practice field today. We'll be talking to coaches and players today. What do they need to do? What do they need to clean up? How do they work on them to get themselves prepared for the Washington Commanders with or without Jayden Daniels? We'll talk about that in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about a couple of great sponsors here on the Locked On Raiders podcast, including the title sponsor, which is Mazda, moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. As a matter of fact, I want to pay attention to the defensive side of the ball. Guys that can move the game forward. And I want to highlight Caillou Blue Kelly in the Raiders secondary. He's finally getting an opportunity to start. He's a Las Vegas guy, went to Bishop Gorman, been around the league for a little bit. His first game he got to play was against the Patriots and get to start. The last game against the Chargers on Monday night, obviously it didn't result in a victory for the Raiders, but I thought he had some really good defensive plays. He's a willing tackler, went out there and had a TFL for the Raiders and did a really good job. And again, you look at a Chargers team who multiple times were put in really good position to score a lot of points. The Raiders defense in general was able to hold them to 20. Thought Caillou Blue Kelly did a really good job at the cornerback position. He did give up one big play, bad communication between him and Isaiah Polamau, but for the most part, he's done really well. He's had a positive impact, which keeps the fans and the game moving forward. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. I also want to tell you about Game Time. NFL season's back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium, surrounded by fans, cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle sometimes. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it can become frustrating. But when you're there, you know, just like Monday night, it was electric the way the Raider Nation had Allegiant Stadium popping. That's why you're using Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included. So the price you see is the price that you pay. You pull up the Game Time app, a couple taps, you'll see amazing deals. You can get your favorite NFL games as low as $100. They've got zone deals, and you can actually see your seats before you buy them. It's the faster, cheaper, and less stressful way than ever to buy tickets. What do you have to do? Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. It's all one word for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, the promo code is LOCKEDON NFL. Locked On NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Completely turn our attention to the Washington Commanders coming up on tomorrow. We'll have the crossover edition. It's already Thursday, right? So David Harrison, Locked On Commanders, will join the show, and we'll talk all things, you know, the Commanders and the Raiders, giving you a preview and kind of getting an idea of if Jayden Daniels is going to go or not. Plus, we'll get the injury report for the week, and we'll start to take a look at that as well. But there's a couple things that I think that the Raiders need to work on in practice to the best of their capacity, and things that they need to clean up before they make the trip to D.C. and take on the Commanders. The first thing first, and Pete Carroll alluded to it a little bit on Tuesday, is getting Jackson Powers-Johnson back out there. And again, this is something, as I mentioned last week, it's not you can just wake up and say, hey, man, I feel good to go. Let's make it happen. Slide me in, coach. I'm ready. Can't do that. Back in the day, it was fine. Can't do that now. You got to pass concussion protocol. But as Coach Carroll said, he's been off enough time. He should be good to go. Slide back into the mix. That's going to be the first and foremost thing that they need to do. Get JPJ back into the starting lineup and try to get that continuity back on the offensive line. You saw what it looked like with Alex Kappa out there. It wasn't good. And he wasn't the only guy that wasn't good, but they need to at least get the original 5 out there that they had and give them an opportunity. And this might not end up being the end-all, be-all, right? If this offensive line can't clean it up a little bit better than what they've done even through the first 2 games, and I know they got a victory in week 1, it still needs to get better, right? So we'll see where it goes from here, but getting JPJ back this week would be huge for that offensive line. Secondly, Geno Smith needs to get his mind right. Right? We always say that, right? Remember your coach used to say that a little bit out from, getting to the game. All right, fellas. All right, quiet down, chill out, get your minds right. Right? Focus on what the task at hand is, right? Knowing that it's a business trip. You got to make that happen. Geno's got to get out of his head. And I know that Geno was in his head on Monday night. You could see it. He was thinking about that first pass of the game that went for an interception. and he never got out of that capacity. And we're going to get a chance to talk to him today. We'll get a chance to talk to head coach Pete Carroll today. We'll get a chance to get into the Raiders locker room. We need to see where Geno is. Last Thursday, when we got a chance to talk to him, you could see that he just didn't seem like he was his normal self. He didn't seem like he was the same guy that we had talked to through the course of training camp and leading into even week 1 against the Patriots. Seemed like something was off. I don't know if that was something was bothering him, from that scramble that he had against the Patriots, that 11-yard run that, and he didn't pop up on the injury report, but it looked like he was a little hobbled from there. I don't know if it was that, if it was something else going on. You never know what could be going on with these guys, but he just didn't seem like he was his normal self. And did not go out and play a good game on Monday, as we know. So Geno Smith has to find a way to flush that, understand the mistakes that he made, and know that it's okay to be a gunslinger. It's okay to go for the big play. But if it's not there, sometimes you have to be able to be patient, right? Remember when they started doing the Kansas City, when Kansas City they were starting to figure out how to slow down that high-octane offense? They were playing that cover 2, that deep zone where they didn't let anything get behind them, and they made Patrick Mahomes get patient and made him dink and dunk and work his way down the field. I know Geno was trying to, show that he can make the same plays that he did against the Patriots and even throw the ball into double coverage and get away with it, but every team's not the Patriots. And the Chargers, who have a really good defense, took advantage of that. Now, I'm not saying the Commanders are that same team, but look, he's got 4 interceptions so far through 2 games. That's not good. He had 15 interceptions last year. And what did we say? He's got to have more touchdowns and less interceptions, right? He's got to be closer to 30 when it comes to touchdowns and closer to 10 when it comes to interceptions. He's got 1 and 4. 1 touchdown to 4 picks. That's not a good ratio. That's not winning football. The Raiders can't have that. The ball is what it's all about. And the Raiders defense need to find a way to take the ball away as well, where they weren't able to do that more times than not when they had a few opportunities. And I know they got, a fumble and, were able to get them on 4th down and get the ball back. And so they basically created a couple turnovers, but they had an opportunity to get a lot more than that. But Geno Smith has to get his mind right. There's no doubt about that. This team is going to go as Geno Smith goes, right? I know there's a lot more elements to this, but the defense all of a sudden stepped up and looks like it could be a pretty good unit, where we had questions about how good they were going to be. Now Geno Smith has got to be that leader. I said it when the Raiders traded for him. He's got an opportunity to have his team not sit behind Russell Wilson. There's an article right now on ESPN.com. Ryan McFadden put it out about how Geno Smith, never felt Seattle was his team because he was always sitting behind Russell Wilson. He said, I'm nobody's favorite player, right? He has that chip on his shoulder. Okay, well, now you have an opportunity. This is your team. There's nobody sitting behind you. The Raiders didn't go draft a young quarterback that they're going to, groom to be behind you. They didn't go grab Shedeur Sanders, who, as soon as you throw an interception or 2, the crowd's going to start chanting for Shedeur or some other high-profile quarterback. They didn't go do that. They didn't go trade up for Jackson Dart. They didn't go get a Tyler Shook. They didn't go get any of those guys, right? They went and got Cam Miller in the 6th round. So you're comfortable. You don't have anyone behind you that you feel like is going to take your job. Now you got to go out there and you got to lead and you got to show exactly who you can be. If Brock Bowers isn't healthy, if he's going to be, just in the same capacity that he was on Monday night, if he's compromised like that, he might have to sit. Right? I appreciate him giving an effort to go, but you could tell he had 5 catches, 38 yards. There was no yak whatsoever. Ryan Hogue, former Raiders wide receiver, was sitting next to me in the press box. He was sitting on one side, Jesse Merrick was on the other. And every time Brock would make a catch and he would go right to the ground, he's like, man, he's not even trying to get yak. He's just trying to go down and protect himself. And there was one, he tried to climb the ladder and go catch the ball because Geno threw a very high ball. And when he came down, it just looked like, man, he was really in pain. At some point, they've got to save him from himself. Like I said, I could appreciate he's trying to go, but the Raiders have weapons. Big Mike, I thought was going to be active on Monday night. He was not. You have that weapon. Ian Thomas, who I thought was going to be super active on Monday, he was not. You have that weapon. Jacoby Myers had 6 catches. That's fine. Trey Tucker, not really that active, right? I mean, there's other guys. Dante Thornton Jr., I think he had 1 or 2 catches max. Jack Bech, I don't even think he got 1 target, only had like 5 snaps. These guys can go, right? If Brock Bowers can't go, you have other guys that can fill the void, but you don't want him out there risking himself for the long term, right? If it is a PCL injury that he's sustained and he's got this big brace that just doesn't allow him to be him, then you might just have to sit him for a game or 2. And that's just the reality of it. The game and the season is long, right? Lincoln says it all the time. It's a marathon, Q. It's not a sprint. You're not going to go to the postseason in one game. You've got to be there for the majority of the season, right? It's nice to win in September. It's nice to win in October. But in reality, it's November, December, and the first week in January where you really need to be clicking on all cylinders if you're trying to make a postseason run. So if Brock's not ready to go, don't make him go. Finally, Ashton Genty, right? I said it on Tuesday show. I said it on Monday show too. The guy's got to be able to get more than 11 carries. He actually didn't have a bad game. Right? I mean, he had 43 yards on 11 carries. There was times when he'd rip off 6 yards, 9 yards, 13 yards, 8 yards, 5 yards, whatever the case may be. Yeah, he'd lose a couple yards, but that's going to happen, right? Let him cook. Give him the rock. I know the offensive line's got to open up holes, but Ashton Genty is doing okay. That game, he was doing okay. If he could have got about 9 or 10 more carries, who knows what could have happened. He can let one pop. Look, he's a volume running back. He's not a guy that's just going to get 3 or 4 carries a game and he's going to go for 80 yards, right? It's not that kind of like a feast or famine guy. This guy is a old school, traditional type workhorse. You've got to give him the rock. And Pete Carroll has said, we're trying to get him acclimated to the NFL. We're trying to get him lathered up. He had too many snaps in the first game. I think he played like 59 snaps. He only played like 39 snaps in week 2. He's got to get more. You didn't draft him number 6 overall to ease him into action. Right, you drafted him number 6 overall to be your guy, to be a big time difference maker. It's just reality. So let him be him. He also, while I'm talking about the coaches and Chip Kelly not giving up on the running attack, Genty has to do his part too. He's got to work on his pass pro. He's got to make sure that he's not a liability while he's out there. But they already knew that was going to be an element that he was going to have to work on when they drafted him number 6 overall. Right, there's plenty of conversation that we had leading into the draft. Should you draft the offensive lineman? Should you go with the running back? Right? Are the Raiders prepared to? Are they able to maximize Ashton Genty? Is he going to be worth 2 or 3 more wins based off what he's able to do? Is the offensive line in place? Obviously, that's something that they've got to work on. They're going to have to continue to build that offensive line. That's got to be a priority. Right? You've got to make that thing solid so you can maximize who Ashton Genty is. But he still needs more than 11 carries. But he's got to do his job too. Pass pro, blitz pickup. Try to help Geno Smith get a little bit of time to deliver the ball, right? You're the last line of defense. You've got to be able to hold it down. So those are the 4 keys that I think, and it's a short week, but the Raiders really need to prioritize to be able to have a chance when they go to Washington to take on the Commanders. Get JPJ back. Geno Smith, get his mind right. Brock Bowers, make sure he's healthy. If he's not healthy, sit him. And Ashton Genty needs to get lathered up, needs to continue to work, and needs to work on his pass pro. It's that simple. You go through and check all 4 of those boxes, one way or the other, you're giving yourself a chance in D.C. with or without Jayden Daniels. He might go, and if he does, he might be compromised, just like Brock Bowers was this last week. If he doesn't go, it'll be Marcus Mariota, and he's an older Marcus Mariota. We saw what he was when he was with the Raiders. He's not that guy. Yes, he has the same skill set as far as able to run the same plays that Jayden Daniels does, but please believe he's not Jayden Daniels. He's Marcus Mariota, who he's just not that dude anymore. As a reason why he's a backup in the National Football League. What's on your mind? Your calls and texts will close out the show. 707-654-4693. We'll hear from you next. Before we get to that, though, we do want to tell you about another great sponsor here on the show, and that is FanDuel. With the NFL season here, FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Are you ready for it? Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Folks use FanDuel for so many reasons, like however you like to bet. Player props, building the same game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting. You could be watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sunday. So with all that being said, that means you're ready to go, right? I know it's a short week, but you're still ready to go. And if you're in fantasy football, you're probably checking your lineups already, getting ready for the start with Thursday Night Football. So are you ready to play? Let's do it. Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Trying to not make these as long as possible because I'm trying to get this into this new time window that we have here on the show, and it's not easy, as you know. So we'll start off with a text from Norv Turner in the 707. He says, man, Q, Chip Kelly has to find a way to make this offense be successful running the rock. Not sure if the run scheme needs to be changed or simplified, but so far it's not working. What are you and Big Link seeing? Would love an in-depth approach from Big Link on the next Raiders Squad Show. That's North Turner in the 707. Thanks for the text. I appreciate you. That'll come up on Thursday, the next Raiders Squad Show. As far as the scheme, I've never been a zone blocking scheme guy when it comes to the Raiders. And I know that it's worked well for many different teams like Denver, San Francisco, the Cowboys, plenty of other teams. The zone blocking scheme has worked really well for. I have never liked it with the Raiders. I've always liked the power blocking scheme. I know Ashton Genty has run really well in the zone blocking scheme last year at Boise State and when he was there at Boise State. But for me and my money, I always prefer the power blocking scheme. But again, you have a running back. You've got to set him up in the best position. Chip's got to go ahead and stick with the running game. And especially when it was working at a certain point, it was working. It's not like Ashton didn't have any success. He wasn't running into a brick wall every time. He was picking up some nice chunk yardage. He was, lowering the shoulder, running guys over. He's making guys miss. Now he is realizing the speed of the NFL is a lot different than the speed in the Mountain West. Right, there was one run that he had where he juked about 4 guys, and I think he got 4 yards. In college at Boise State, that's probably a 40. He might be still running. That was probably at least a 45-yard gain after that. Right, you juke a couple guys, you're taking it to the house. In the NFL, 4 or 5-yard gain. It's just that simple. You got to pick up some yardage before you get touched. Ashton Genty, that's the one thing. He's been getting contacted very quickly after he gets the rock. So that means the offensive line's got to do a better job. But for the most part, I just think he needs to get more targets and more touches as well. So thanks so much for that text. Since that was a quick one, let's go ahead and get another one in. This text comes from Mr. James in Nashville. Q, my dude, Mr. James out of Nashville. First, it was an absolute pleasure to finally get to meet you after listening to you for a while now. You seem like a genuinely solid dude and always smiling. I love it. As far as the game, it was definitely disappointing from my first game at the Death Star. Lackluster running, horrible passing, and the penalties. My God, the penalties. Being a Raider fan since the late 80s, I'm so tired of the Raiders always getting penalties and never receiving them when they should. I saw 3 different penalties that should have been called that weren't, and they were obvious penalties at that. Does the league review these games and the refs' performances and reprimand them accordingly, or just turn a blind eye and say, oh, well, this crap gets old year after year? I know we can do better, and I believe in this team wholeheartedly, so I'm keeping the faith and hoping the league finally does something about the lack of calls for the Raiders, Q. As always, keep up the amazing job you do, and let's go Raiders. That's Mr. James in Nashville. He sent along the picture of us that we took at the Torch as well. And, yeah, Mr. James, it was really great to meet you. And like I said, it was great to meet a lot of Raider Nation. And it's so unbelievable. It really is that people want to take the time to come up and say, hey, man, I listen to the show all the time. And, hey, man, really appreciate what you said the other day. Or, hey, man, you motivate me to go to the gym in the morning or something. I'm like, dang, that's cool. Because, honestly, you really don't know. And it's pretty awesome when you get an opportunity to meet, and greet with Raider Nation and folks that listen to the show and let you know why they listen to the show. So thanks so much to everyone that I got a chance to shake their hand with on Monday at the Torch. And, yeah, the team itself can review some plays and send them into the league and say, hey, man, these should have been penalties. I know that Pete Carroll said that they even reviewed one and sent it into the league that they thought was a Max Crosby sack. He didn't get credit for. Also, a Max Crosby a forced fumble he didn't get credit for either. Pete Carroll sent that into the league too. So normally those things kind of go for whatever, not really nothing. But, yeah, that happens. There was some plays. There was a penalty that should have been roughing the passer on the Chargers defensive lineman who basically gave a forearm shiver to Geno Smith and knocked him on the ground. That should have been a penalty. There was a couple pass interference calls that I thought should have been penalties as well. So, yeah, it wasn't the most clean officiated game and evenly officiated game, but definitely not the only reason why the Raiders lost. But thanks so much for the text, my man. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Cajun Raider in the 985. He's calling to summarize the game and really simplifies it. Football not being that hard based off Cajun Raiders call. Here he is, Cajun Raider.
Q, Cajun Raider here from the 985 in Louisiana. Listen, it's going to sound cliche, but it's so true. This game was a story of 2 lines. The Chargers O-line was better than the Raider D-line on 80+% of the snaps. And vice versa. Our O-line got beat by their D-line on 80% of the snaps. If you look at Herbert's pocket on a large majority of the time that he dropped back to pass, he had a perfect-looking pocket to throw in, to sit and throw in. Whereas when Geno dropped back on a vast majority of the snaps, from the moment he's taken his 3 steps back, he's already having to work with a deformed pocket, passing in on one side or the other. I know the defense did a pretty good job against the Chargers. But I'm going to say something that's probably not going to be very popular. I need more from Max. He's got his 2, 3, maybe 4, disruptive plays throughout the game that gets highlights. But I need consistent disruption, and we've seen that from him in the past. It doesn't have to be a sack. It just has to be something that's going to crash that pocket. And I don't know if it's scheme related, but I'm noticing on the majority of his rushes, they're speed rushes, way deep in the pocket, going wide outside, and maybe get schemed that way in hopes that the quarterback steps up and we crash the pocket from the middle. But it just seems like on a large number of plays, Max is almost taking himself out by how wide and how deep he's rushing in. So just my observation, but it looks like next year we're going to need O-line help in the draft. Okay, go Raiders.
Thank you for the call, my man. Appreciate you. And, yeah, the trenches were the key offensively and defensively, right? I said it before the game. The Chargers are in a different weight class than the Raiders were. They were stepping up in weight class after taking on the Patriots and winning. There's a reason when Jim Harbaugh took over the Chargers, what do we all know? He's going to go draft the offensive lineman immediately. He went out and drafted Joe Alt, the best offensive lineman in the draft. They already have Rashawn Slater, a standout left tackle, right? They just gave him a contract extension before he got injured this year, but they already had Slater. Alt played left tackle at Notre Dame, and they said, nope, we're going to put you at the right tackle. We're going to have the best bookends on the offensive line in football between Slater and Alt. And then they went out and spent free agency money, and they had to get rid of some guys on defense, but they wanted to make sure that they bolstered the offensive line because we all know Jim Harbaugh wants to run the rock. Now they have a really good offensive line, and when Slater comes back next year, it's going to be even better. And they're not only just running the rock, now they're able to throw the ball as well, and he's letting it open up for Justin Herbert, where actually their running game's not even that great. Like, they didn't run much better than the Raiders did on Monday, right? I mean, Justin Herbert was their leading rusher, so you could tell that it wasn't really that big of a game plan for them. It was more about the passing game. But the trenches, there's no doubt, the more physical team. I heard Lincoln Kennedy say it on the post-game show while he was on with JT. The Raiders team is not as physical as they need to be. They're not where they need to be yet. I asked Pete Carroll about that on Tuesday, and he said, yeah, we're still working on that. We're trying to get there offensively and defensively, but he does like where they are physically wise from the defensive side of things. Obviously, the offense still needs a little bit more work. I got another text. I only got time for a couple more. This text comes from Raider Jason in the 304. Good day, Q. Raider Jason from the 304. Here's an observation from the game. I condense as much as possible. 1, Geno looked bad. He's trying to play Superman, staring down receivers and forcing balls into double coverage. I could tell it's going to be a long day after the first play. They have to get the run game going to complement him. 2, the defense did pretty well until the 60-yard bomb. 3, the O-line was dominated. They got pushed around the entire game. 4, I thought offensive adjustments worked well in week 1, not so much in week 2. Jesse Minter, that's the Chargers defensive coordinator, called a great game, and they have some dudes. It'd be nice to see if they could score over 25 points. It's a long season. Too early to panic yet. As always, love your show. Just win, baby. Go Raiders. Jason in the 304. 4 good points. 4 really good points there. And Jesse Minter is a fantastic defensive coordinator, and he will be a head coach sooner rather than later because he is that stinking good as a DC, and he showed it. Right? They confused the Raiders. I talked to many guys in the locker room on Monday night after the game, and all the guys on offense from Genty to Jacoby Myers to Dante Thornton Jr. all said that they weren't going to get beat deep. Right? They kept everything in front of them, and even Dante to the side with me just said, "Hey man, they switched some things up. Even when they showed one coverage, then they popped into another thing to try to make it confusing. So it's just more film study they got to do. But, again, the Chargers, they've got those dudes that you mentioned, and they were able to do that. So thanks so much for that text. Definitely appreciate you. We'll close out with a call from Hector from Princeton, Texas. He's calling to talk about assumptions and conclusions, overall thoughts of the fan base so quickly after only 1 loss on the young season. Here's Hector from Princeton, Texas.
Hey, how's it going? This is Hector from Princeton, Texas. Just was hearing yesterday's podcast, and I noticed how quickly, as a team, as a fan base, we start making conclusions and assuming that it's going to be a good or bad. I mean, it's weak, And for those that think that we're not prepared, we need another year. Next season will be better. I mean, honestly, it was just a matter of execution, but the truth is, like, we were in it up until that last interception, but the game was there compared to other seasons, like coaching staff, quarterback, running backs, offensive line. Like, we're on a better situation, and I know that as the season progresses, we'll see those little things get adjusted, but mainly we're going to be a team that competes, you know. I mean, I don't want to compare ourselves to any other team, but kind of like the Broncos that last season, where the expectation wasn't that high, but, you know, they, as the season progressed, they become that good team. And right now, you know, if you think about it, like, they're considered part of a contender. And that's kind of like the reality here is, like, as the season's going to progress, who knows? And I'm just staying very optimistic about it. Again, fairly early to start, you know, making conclusions and thinking this and that. But at the same time, it gave us a little bit of reality of where we're standing. But honestly, the positive mindset should be, you know, what we, you know, should have as a fan base. And yeah, it's good that we saw this Geno now, because if we would have seen this Geno like week 10 or week 11, when it's like a little bit more, the season is on the line, or any more crucial games, then it would have been different. But right now, I mean, yes, it matters. It was a divisional game, but at the same time, we are, you know, still in a good place to fix those mistakes. Again, very, very excited to share our thoughts here on your podcast, man. You guys keep doing what you do. Appreciate it. Out.
Hector, thanks so much for the call, my man. And the reality is that winning in the NFL is hard, right? There's a reason why I've been saying that if the Raiders go from 4 wins in 2024 to 8 or 9 in 2025, that's a great first season for Pete Carroll. No, it's not the playoffs like we all want them to go to, but that's a really good season because, again, they're trying to establish what the Chargers established last year with Jim Harbaugh and what Sean Payton and the Broncos established 2 years ago, right? It took 2 years for them to get to a certain point, and then they didn't make the postseason. But then the next year, they were able to get into the postseason, the next year being last year. So it took the Broncos 2 seasons to get into the playoffs. It took the Chargers 1, but the Broncos didn't have their franchise quarterback until last year. When Jim Harbaugh took over, they already had their franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert. And, oh, by the way, he was already a seasoned vet. Right, so they were already ahead of the curve, and that's how they got into the postseason in year 1. The Raiders have to do the same thing and try to figure it out. They get to 8 wins, 9 wins this season. That'll be a really good season, in my opinion. It's young. They've only played 2 games, right? They have an opportunity to get another win, get out of the L column, get back into the W column this coming up Sunday against the Washington Commanders. So thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate you. Got a text from Black Hole Bronc we'll get to. Dalton and KC, we'll get to that, and we'll make sure that we do that this week on the show. Tomorrow we do have the crossover edition. David Harrison, Washington Commanders, Locked On Commanders. We'll talk all things Commanders and Raiders and start to look at the tail of the tape, how the Commanders can get the dub, how the Raiders can get the dub, get some information on Jayden Daniels. Is he going to go or not? And all that good stuff. A lot of people's favorite show of the week. That'll be coming up tomorrow for Crossover Thursday. Again, we'll be at the Raiders facility today. We'll talk to Pete Carroll. We'll talk to Geno Smith. We'll try to get in the locker room as well. And anything good, we'll definitely bring to the table on the show, too. So thanks for rocking with me. As always, Raider Nation, definitely appreciate that. We'll keep this party going, the electric circus here throughout the course of the week, getting you ready for week 3 action. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.